It's Kevin Smith. Very excited to get Dogma back.
I know.
Yeah.
Because Dogma was one of those movies, and I remember I heard about the controversy before I even knew what it was. And this is like, what year did that come out? 90?
Came out 99.
99.
Same year my kid was born.
Okay, so...
In fact, we were going to get my kid baptized, and somebody put a brick through our front window.
Yeah.
Because when the movie came out, there were people on the religious folks who were upset about them.
We remember.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, Dogma, great movie, and, you'd be able to watch it back at that time. And then there was this great dark period where you couldn't get it, and it's because Harvey Weinstein, yes, the Harvey Weinstein, he had the rights to it.
Yeah, he could care less about Dogma. It was a property he owned, but he would never re-up the license. And we would put in calls going like, Sony wants to re-up Dogma, but he didn't care. We never got word back or anything like that.
So he gets in trouble. He's tied up
years later, I'll tell a story here. Years later. So years later, Harvey calls up. I haven't spoken to this dude since we left in 2008 after we made Zach and Miri. And he calls up out of the blue, and they're like, hold for Harvey Weinstein. I was like, oh my God. And he goes, Kevin. I said, hey, how are you? He goes, I'm good. Dogma. I just realized we got it, and we're not doing anything with it. This could be a sequel or streaming series now. Mind you, I haven't heard from this person in 12 years, and I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, he remembered that he owned this movie, my fourth film with this cast. Like, it's valuable, and he sees there's value in it. Maybe we'll get to go back to the Dogma table and stuff. So he goes, all right, we'll talk about this further. I'll get into it next week. Bye. And he hangs up. So excited. 6 days later, the New York Times article drops.
My God.
Yeah, no.
So at that point, I go from excited to scared because like this guy I just spoke to this dude for the first time in 12 years. So I speak to John Gordon, who's my producer friend. He worked at Miramax back in the day, produced Red State and stuff. So I said, I was like, hey man, it was after that article dropped. I don't know what it was like for other people, but for me and the people I knew in that business, it was like, did you know? Did you know? Like, how did this happen? So I said, I don't know how to say this, dude, but like, he called me last week for the first time in 12 years, and he talked about doing Dogma again. And John goes, he was just trying to see if you were one of the New York Times sources.
Oh.
And so I'm not saying like, and I was heartbroken and Harvey Weinstein hurt me.
Right.
The least
Get
egregious
lying.
thing the monster ever did, right?
Sure.
But that being said, like, it wasn't sincere. It was him going like, is he one of the people?
Right.
And once he had
Going
me on the
down the
phone
list.
and he talked for a minute, he
Wow.
was like, he's not one of them, and moved on. So
Wow.
that was the last Dogma anything for a minute.